Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to the new channel 50 States of You, where we're looking at all American states. Now, I know this video is not like the other ones, maybe not what you're expecting, but stay with me here, right? Because I just want to ask you a simple question. If you had to bet on one state in America to dominate America's future, which one would you choose? California or Texas? For decades, the answer seemed pretty obvious. California was the economic engine of the United States, home to Silicon Valley, Hollywood, massive ports, global influence. But something has shifted. Over the last several years, Texas, it's been rising, and rising fast. I am not from America, if you haven't already been able to tell that. There's not many states that I would like to go visit in America, and that's nothing against American people. I think the American people are wonderful, but there's just nothing in California that takes my fancy. I think Hollywood is very pretentious and very fake, which I'm not about. There's not many places in the US that I would like to go visit. I would maybe like to go see other cities and cultures, but Texas is appealing. I like meat, I like barbecue. I'm a traditional type male as well, so I think Texas is probably the most appealing state to me to go see. But businesses are moving, people seem to be relocating, and the political power is shifting massively. So today, let's break down clearly and objectively. Is Texas really overtaking California? Or is it just a headline? Let's start with the foundation. Population. People are everything. My dad used to always tell me that. Your people, your staff are your business. People are everything. So let's have a look into the population. There's a huge power shift. Political power in America, it follows people. Congressional seats, electoral votes, federal funding, all of it adjusts based on the population of the state. And Texas, it's been growing rapidly. For years now, Texas has been one of the fastest growing large states in the country. People aren't just moving there from abroad, they're moving there from the US states also. From inside the US, people are relocating to Texas. And that includes California as well. Now, why is that? The biggest reason, in my opinion, is cost. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. We all work for money. We all want, like back when you look back at the 50s and the 40s and stuff, you could provide for your family on a single source of income. I'm not saying you can do that in Texas now, but it's a lot better there than it is in many of the other states, especially California. Housing in major Californian cities has become extremely expensive. For many middle-class families, buying a home near job centres, it's almost an impossibility nowadays. And in contrast, Texas cities like Austin, Dallas and Houston, while rising in cost, yes, they have historically offered more space for less money. You get so much more bang for your buck. Lower cost of living as well means that family can stretch their income further. They can go on holidays and vacations more, which is massively appealing. And when people move, power follows. Texas has gained congressional seats in recent times in politics. They've gotten more seats in parliament. California has gone the opposite way. They've actually lost them. It's not symbolic. The structure has changed. But population alone doesn't tell the full story. So we need to also talk about the money. Now, California still has one of the largest economies in the world. If it were its own country, it would rank among the top global economies. And that is huge. It's enormous. But growth rate matters just as much as size. Texas has built an economy that's diversified and it's also business friendly. energy, technology, manufacturing, logistics, aerospace, finance. One of the most talked about advantages Texas promotes is this: no state income tax. That is huge. It's a huge thing for individuals and many businesses. That matters. Lower taxes can mean more take-home pay, higher margins, and greater incentive to relocate. And companies have noticed this as well. Several major corporations have either moved headquarters to Texas or expanded major operations there. Now, this doesn't mean California is collapsing. Far from it, in fact. California still dominates venture capital, tech startups, entertainment. Silicon Valley still remains a global innovation powerhouse. But Texas is trying to copy California. Why wouldn't they? It's offering an alternative model. Lower regulation in certain industries, lower costs, more land, faster construction timelines. For certain businesses, it's extremely attractive. And when corporate headquarters move, jobs will then follow. Let's have a look at the questions about tech. Here's where things start getting interesting. California built in modern technology. California built the modern technology, from software to semiconductors to ecosystems around Silicon Valley. Incredibly powerful. Talent networks, university investors, all are tightly connected to each other. That kind of ecosystem doesn't just disappear overnight. But Texas has been building something very, very different. Austin in particular has emerged as a serious tech hub. It doesn't yet rival Silicon Valley in venture capital density or global influence, but it offers something Silicon Valley struggles with: affordability and space to grow, room to move and room to grow. Engineers can buy homes. Startups can lease offices without extreme costs. Employees can avoid multiple hour commutes to work. That lifestyle difference matters hugely. And in the post-remote work world, geography has become more flexible. The question isn't whether Texas replaces Silicon Valley. The real question is whether American innovation becomes multi-centered instead of concentrated in one state. If that happens, Texas wins huge. Infrastructure and energy. Let's have a look at it. Now let's talk about something less glamorous. Infrastructure and energy. It's incredibly important. Texas has historically benefited from relatively fast development cycles. Things like roads, housing developments, warehouses. They get built quickly. They support growth. But growth also creates pressure. More people means more traffic, more strain on power grids, more water demand. Texas has already faced serious energy grid challenges and extreme weather events. California, meanwhile, faces its own issues. Wildfires, how many have there been? Drought and energy reliability concerns. Neither state is immune to the environmental stresses. But whichever state manages infrastructure more effectively over the next decade will gain a massive competitive advantage. Because companies and families, they don't just look at taxes, they look at stability, reliable power, safety in neighborhoods, functional transport, resilient systems. This part of the competition is still very much undecided. Now let's have a look at culture and political identity. There's another dimension here that often gets overlooked, and that is identity. California has built a global brand. When people think of California, they think of Hollywood, beaches, innovation, being progressive in their culture. Texas, it's got its own brand. Independence, business friendly, governance, space, growth, energy production. These identities, they attract different types of people and companies. Some prefer dense urban coastal life, but others prefer suburban expansion and lower taxes. This creates the kind of sorting effect. Americans increasingly choose states aligned with their economic and political preferences. And that sorting reinforces each state model. And the result? Two very different approaches to governance competing at massive scale. And in many ways, the rest of the country is watching to see which model produces the higher long-term outcomes. Now, Texas has something also extremely powerful that doesn't get enough attention. Location. It sits centrally between the east and the west. It borders Mexico, a major trading partner in manufacturing base. It has major ports, energy, infrastructure, and wide open land. Logistically, it is extremely well positioned for manufacturing and distribution. California's advantage, meanwhile, is direct Pacific access and long established global trade networks. But supply chains are changing, manufacturing patterns are shifting, and Texas's geographic flexibility could become one or even more valuable in a reshaped global economy. So is Texas overtaking California? Here's my honest answer. Not yet. California still leads in total economic output, venture capital dominance, global cultural influence, and established innovation networks. I'm not sure why that was so difficult to get out, but Texas, it's got momentum. It's got population growth, business relocations, corporate headquarters, political seat gains. Elon Musk, he set up Tesla in Texas. Joe Rogan has moved to Texas. And momentum, it matters. Where people go, other people will follow. The more people and companies move to a state, the more attractive it becomes for the next wave. That creates compounding effect. But there's also risk. Rigid growth can strain housing. Infrastructure can lag. Costs can rise. Ironically, the more successful Texas becomes, the more risk developing the same pressure California faces right now. And that is the real twist. This isn't a story for one state collapsing and another one conquering. It's a story about competition. Healthy competition between two different economic models. And that competition may ultimately make both stronger. Healthy competition is good for everyone. The bigger picture, let's zoom out for a moment. What we're really watching isn't Texas versus California. We're watching a shift in how Americans choose where to live and build. Remote work, lower taxes, business relocation, political sorting, and all these faces, all these forces in reshaping the map. And Texas happens to position perfectly to capture this moment. But California still holds enormous structural advantage. So instead of asking who wins, maybe the better question is, what kind of future does each state represent? One is built on dense innovation, ecosystems and global branding, or one built on rapid expansion, lower taxes and geographic flexibility. The next decade is going to answer that. And the outcome won't affect Texans or Californians. It will shape America's economic balance and power. So now I want to ask you, if you had to choose one state to determine the next 20 years, which one would you bet on? Let me know.